Hi guys! So I want to tell you about a really fantastic book I just recently read a couple weeks ago. First, let's talk about being a teenager. It's challenging, right? So imagine being a 14-year-old girl who is an orphan. She doesn't have a mom or dad. She has a shaved head. She's a 14-year-old girl. She has a shaved head. And she has mismatched eyes, like one blue and one green. So she doesn't look like a typical 14-year-old that you or I could relate to, right? And her name is Fever. Now, why is her name Fever? Well, the book I'm going to tell you about, and I hope you read because it's really fantastic, is called Fever Crumb. It's named after her. And in the times of this story, children are named after any ailments that their mother has while they're pregnant. So Fever's mother apparently had a fever somewhere along the way, hence the name Fever. So Fever Crumb gets her last name from Dr. Crumb, who is the man who adopted her when she was orphaned as a child. And Dr. Crumb is part of the Order of Engineers. Now, the Order of Engineers is a group of men who kind of deal with the problems of the day. And the Order of Engineers are very rational thinking men. Notice I said men. Women are not believed to be able to have rational thoughts. Women are thought to have irrational thoughts, like being concerned with hair and other irrational things. So only very logically thinking are how the Order of Engineers work and solve the problems of the common day. So the setting of this story is in post-apocalyptic London. So a catastrophic event has occurred, and we are way past modern times in London, and things have changed. There's some strange occurrences going on. The main characters you're going to come across are Fever, Dr. Crumb, a gentleman by the name of Kit Solent. And it's important to know that there is a superhuman race called the Homo superior scriven. Now, the scriven are kind of the race that came in and took over and led London into its current state. Scriven held a lot of power. They no longer have the power. There's only few left. And it's not a good thing to be identified as a scriven. So you might ask, how do you know if somebody is a scriven? Well, scriven have markings on their faces, kind of like we would think of freckles. So they're very easily identified, and they're just kind of odd looking from the little bit that we get from them. So there's scriven, and then there's a few people that like to call themselves the skinners. And the skinners are those people that kind of take care of the scriven. So I'll let you think about that and put that together. So our main character, Fever, who was raised as an orphan by the Order of Engineers, has gotten her first job. So she's 14, and a gentleman by the name of Kit Solent has hired her. And we the story kind of starts with her finding out she's been hired, being a bit nervous about going out into the world on her own, wondering why somebody would have hired her, the only female engineer. And so we're gonna kind of find that out with her together. So I'd like to read a passage that kind of gives you a flavor of the story that we're about to delve into. And it's important to know that Fever has not left the Order of Engineers where they live. They're kind of in their own little compound in town. So she's sent by train to the downtown area to find this gentleman's house and, meet him, see what he needs. Downtown is a place called the Straggle Market, and you can kind of get by that. It's kind of a crazy place to be with lots of things happening. So I'm going to read you a quick excerpt, kind of where she finds herself. "Hallo, ducks," called a toothless old woman, seeing Fever glance at the rust-stained stones that were spread on her blanket. She's in the market, remember. "Treat yourself to a bargain, dearie." She snatched at Fever's sleeve, and Fever looked round into her mad old face. The woman's eyes widened. Her grin turned into something different. "What are you?" she asked. She started to back away, pointing with one arm at Fever's face, while she used the other elbow a path for herself through the crowd. "Her eyes!" she squealed. "Her eyes! She's one of 'em!" "Please do stop it," said Fever, but her voice was small, no more than a whisper really, while the old woman's had risen to a wheezy shriek. "Scriven! She be Scriven!" Heads were turning. People were noticing Fever, and they weren't the sort of people she wanted to be noticed by. Burly barrow boys, rag-robed scavengers, crop-headed London roughs with tattooed necks. With startling speed, a ring of gawpers congealed around her, attracted by the scent of coming violence. Someone knocked Fever's hat off, and as she stooped to pick it up, she heard them muttering, "Look at her! She's got no hair, no hair!" "I am an engineer," said Fever, straightening up. "I shave my head. Hair is unnecessary and provides a home to lice and fleas. It is a vestige of our animal past." Remember, Fever has been taught to think rationally, so she sees no need to have hair, which is why she shaved it like all the other men have shaved theirs. But none of the people round her looked as though they'd known what vestige meant, or believed that mankind was descended from the animals. They weren't listening anyway. "She's tall enough, but she ain't got no speckles," said one of the men, peering into Fever's face. "She ain't no Scriven." "But look at them eyes," another urged. "She's some sort of mishap, all right." "Ow, she could be human yet have eyes like that don't match." "Of course I am human," said Fever weakly, but the men were all suspicious now, and that word mishap had been enough to rouse a wary hatred from deep in their folk memory. Mutations were rare, and not many had been as long-lasting or as dangerous as the Scriven, but most Londoners still believed in stamping out mishaps wherever you found them, just in case. All right, so that's her first experience of coming into London and the Straggle Market. So she finds herself safely, a little chase ensues after that. There's a lot of adventure. She finds herself at the home of Kit Solent, who is this quirky archaeologist that has hired her. And kind of as the story progresses, she's trying to figure out what his true intentions are, like what's the ulterior motive for hiring her. So it's very fast-paced. It's very high adventure. It's very, very entertaining. And I'm not a huge sci-fi, dystopian, apocalyptic kind of gal. Like, I like a funny story generally, or the opposite in like a historical story. So this was really something that I never would have picked up myself. It was recommended to me, and I'm so very glad that somebody recommended it to me. And I think you're really gonna like it. So come along on Fever Crumb's journey and see what happens along the way. Find out why she's having these mysterious flashbacks and memories, and find out what her future holds. Is she Scriven? Is she something else? What does her future hold? What does the future of London hold? So you'll find eccentric characters. You'll find bizarre inventions. You will find that you really, really like this book as much as I did, I'm sure. So happy reading!